The 2025 season is upon us, and the Texans are traveling to LA to start it out. We're going to talk about all that and more on this edition of The Bullpen.
To throw the punches away. He floats one wide open, and there he goes. Tagged down for a Texan touchdown.
Hello and welcome to this edition of The Bullpen. As always, I'm James Roy, and with me is Tom Tabria. Tom, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's football season. I'm ready. It's been too long. We get football now.
I'm ready for it too, Tom. I'm ready for it too. Excited for this one in particular because I'm going to be at this game, but I'm ready to talk about it. Excited to talk about what we've got in store. We're here to preview the Rams game. We'll get into some individual matchups that we're looking forward to, give our score predictions, and then we'll watch the game and see what happens. So let's get into it. What immediately, just off the dome, before we get into any of the individual matchups, sticks out to you about this matchup between the Texans and the Rams?
I think 3-4 years ago, it would have been looked at totally differently. You know, the Rams have had a lot of turnover. They were a Super Bowl champion not too long ago. Now you look at the Rams, they're kind of descending just a little bit. Matthew Stafford is a lot older now. And you look at a Texan team that has some kind of expectations now. People are talking about them. People are putting the Texans in the conversation as one of the best teams in the AFC. And they got to go out and prove that. This is not a game that, you know, they're just going to be able to show up and the logo and the name on the front of the chest is going to be enough to win it. They're going to have to go in there and play good football. I do believe Sean McVay is going to be ready to go. You know, he's got his young protege, so to speak, as the offensive coordinator for the Texans. So there's just a lot of interesting storylines there that both teams are going to be super motivated. I mean, it's week one. You don't need a whole lot to get motivated for, but I think, you know, this is a good way to set the tone for both sides. So the Texans really have to show up and play really well.
No, yeah, I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me is Sean McVay. I think even in the down year that they had, you know, obviously getting rid of all that draft capital to bring in Matt Stafford. The one thing they had going for them was his you know, football mind to propel them through, even though they got so bad that he contemplated retiring because of it. But I mean, this is a matchup that some people might look at and be like, oh, it's just the Rams based off of what they've seen from them in the past. But this is a team that in a singular draft rebuilt their defensive line and, you know, repurposed their team. I'll obviously see them without Cooper Kupp for the first time, with Davante Adams instead and Puka Nacua as that wide receiver room. Matt Stafford a little hobbled going into this one. So there's some things that might make this kind of feel like a trap, make it feel a little different. But overall, I think anyone who has paid attention to the Rams is treating this with the respect it deserves. It's definitely not going to be a walk in the park. But getting into the individual matchups, let's just break it down with what's most interesting. The first one that I can think of is Puka Nacua versus Derek Stingley. How do you think this matchup shapes up? Now, in the past, the Texans have stuck to Derek Stingley covering one side of the field, so we could also see Derek Stingley go against Davante Adams, but I'm particularly interested in Derek Stingley versus Puka Nacua. So what are your thoughts on that one?
I don't know how much we see of it, to be honest. Puka Nacua, they move all over the field. I think he's going to get some time against everyone. I think they're going to be trying to probe the Texans defense to see which one of the corners, secondary players that they can take advantage of. So I imagine Puka Nacua will be all over the place. The matchup that I think is really interesting, that I think is really box office, even though he's probably on the backside of his career, is Davante Adams versus Derek Stingley Jr. I do think we'll get that. I do feel like they'll line up on top of each other a lot, and I think it's going to be a great matchup because I don't think Davante Adams is past his prime. I think he can still go out and have really good football games. I believe that Derek Stingley Jr. is probably the toughest corner he'll face all season, and it should be a great one.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that brings up an interesting point of like Kamari Laster and how he matches up, because this is one where he's, you know, there's not going to be a snap where he's not faced with like a challenge. I know some people might not think, you know, super highly of Davante Adams with where he's at right now, but as playing wide receiver too, I have to believe that presents somewhat of a challenge given what Devontae Adams has been and what I believe is still capable of. So I'm interested to see it. I'm wondering if Derek Stingley is going to be able to maybe get a few turnovers off of Stafford, because realistically, this is not just a battle between, the cornerbacks and the wide receiver. It's a battle between the cornerbacks, the wide receiver, but also the quarterback. And so I'm interested to see, because I'm not fully sure to what extent, like the fact that there was a discussion of whether or not Matt Stafford was going to play this week lets you know that it was at least somewhat serious. And I'm interested to see if it's going to affect his ability to play. Sticking with the defensive side of the ball, can we look at the matchup between Ursary and Jared Verse? How do you think that shakes out? I now, to be fair, I'm not certain that Verse always lines up on the side Ursary's on. So it could be Verse versus, Titus Howard, but the tackles really versus this Rams defensive line.
It's going to be a good test, I think, to see just how much of the Ursary thing is legit or hype or, maybe somewhere in the middle. I mean, obviously we've seen him, in preseason games against a lot of twos and think Ursary could be a great tackle. And I hope that that's the way that works out. I think we're going to learn a lot, after week one to seeing how well he holds up, against, I would say a pretty good, edge rusher. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he fares. I'm interested to see what kind of running lanes the run game has. I think that's going to be interesting. And if they can run the football effectively, because I believe this offense wants to do that more than they just want to line up and throw the ball over the yard. So I don't know how much he's going to have to pass block as much as he's going to have to run block. And that's going to be really interesting, really telling about how successful they were.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same scheme that Nick Caley's coming from, so it should come as no surprise that both offenses are pretty much going to try and impose their will. From what I've read, the expectation is that McVay is also going to runs a gap scheme and is going to try and push the line of scrimmage and make some things happen in the run game. So I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the test that it's going to be for Ursary in the run game, but I'm also just really interested to see, obviously, we look at some of the great battles we've seen along the line, looking at our side of the ball with Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter going against, the Chargers in the playoffs and proving that they, that as good as they were, they could be beat. And then looking at us now going into this season with, Titus Howard is pretty established tackle, I'd say, but Ursary has had a good camp, but we're going to see him tested pretty quickly here this season. But let's flip over to the offensive side with the Texans. How do you think that CJ Stroud matches up against this Rams defense? Not a lot of big names as far as I know, at least in the secondary, but still a defensive line that could pose a threat. We've talked about our Ariante Ursary and his battle, and him and Titus Howard, the whole offensive line really. But how does this matchup shape up for CJ?
It's really an interesting question. The question, I hate to do this, but it's like I want to answer the question with a question and go, how much do you think is a good day for CJ based on what we know about this offense? We've established, I think, or at least they've established by telling us that they want to run the football a lot. I believe they want to lean on the run game a lot. And part of that is to, part of that scheme, part of that to help with the offensive line. And I don't know if we get, 20 for 25 for 275 from CJ with a touchdown, if that's a bad day. Last years past, we might have been like, no, we need CJ to go for 2 tutties and 3 hundo. And now I don't know what that bar is for him based on the way the offense wants to run, if that makes sense. I think they want to lean on the run game. I think that's what they've kind of spoke to. So I don't want to sit there and tell you that CJ is going to throw the ball over the yard, even though we're in love with the offensive weapons that they have. We love all of our wide receivers. I think the tight ends are going to be markedly improved because I think they're going to be used the way they should be used. And the possibilities are there for big games from CJ, but I don't know if we get it right away. So I think he can be successful and not have a big number day.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the over under for his passing yards total is set at, I do believe, 245 and a half last I saw, which I mean would be a good day for him. I would think. I think 250 and a couple of touchdowns would be a really good day. And you kind of spoke to it on when we went live earlier this week, in terms of like the importance of him protecting the football. One of the big things that appealed to everyone about CJ in his rookie season was the fact that he just didn't really turn the ball over. And so seeing him return to that would be nice. And then seeing him take what he can get, running the ball a little bit, doing a little scrambling, obviously not an excessive amount, but would be nice to see. So this is a defense where once you get past the defensive line and like the box, I think the safety room for the Rams is pretty good with Cam Curl. But I just don't know how much this defense will challenge him from a big name perspective. Now, that's not to say this defense isn't good. And it kind of brings me to my next point. Looking at the matchup on our side, we talked about the offensive and defensive line. Let's flip back. I think I kind of went out of order there, but I'm gonna go for it. And let's look at how our defensive line matches up against the Rams' offensive line. So they've got a rookie coming in at left tackle, I believe. Couldn't give you the name off the top of my head, but I'm interested to see how he can hold up against what is a very good pass rush from the Texans. Did you foresee any concerns on our end? I mean, it's a top 5 group on our end, but do you see any challenges going against this Rams offensive line?
I don't. I think they should really eat. I mean, if you tell me Matt Stafford, is going to go and drop back 30 times, I think he's going to get sacked like 5 of them. I really don't know that they're going to want to throw the ball as much to protect the rookie tackle. I think that's going to kind of speak to what Sean McVay said about wanting to run the ball a little bit. And if anything, I see them trying to neutralize the pass rush by running the football. And that means that Stafford won't have a big day. Those wide receivers that we talked about might not have a big day. And it's really just going to be on the interior defensive line to really just stuff the run. And then, that kind of neutralizes that offense. I think a lot of it is going to be dictated by the score. Obviously, if, the Rams are able to get an early touchdown or a lead early, you're obviously going to see them protect Stafford, who's coming off of a back injury. I'm sure the last thing he needs is, 5 sacks on his lower back. So it'll be interesting if the Texans can jump out, have a really fast start, which they're not prone to, which I'm hoping that's something that we see differently, that they really try to start fast, really try to be the aggressor and play from in front as opposed to constantly playing catch up, which we saw many, many times last year, and make the Rams have to, drop back and throw the ball more than they want to.
Yeah, and I agree that regardless of the talent that's across the line, we have to look at, you kind of applied or implied it, the concept of a coach that's really good. We've already shown a lot of, both of us respect Sean McVay and what he is as an offensive mind. Great coaches can make it work with what they've got. And so regardless of the talent level along that offensive line, got to show some respect to it and I hope that D'Amico has a game plan in mind. Our defense has shown a good amount of flexibility outside of, which side of the field the cornerbacks play. That's very few times we've changed that. I think they did it one time against the Browns in the playoffs, worked really well. But with that in mind, let's launch into our score predictions. As is in typical fashion for us, the previews are usually a little shorter. So might as well just run into our score predictions and see what we got. I want to hear what you have to say, because I honestly don't know where your head is at as far as like how you think the Texans are going to do.
I totally thought you were going to be like, well, I'm going to base my storybook ending off of what you say.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. No.
It's interesting.
Of course, you don't pick the Texans to win.
Oh, I definitely will.
Okay.
It's interesting. Vegas only has the Texans as a 2.5, 3-point dog, depending on what book you're at. So I feel like it's going to be a close game. I mean, I hope that that's horribly wrong. And we're talking about the Texans totally different Sunday, Monday than we were, Sunday night, Monday morning than we were on Friday. But I'm going to stick with Vegas. I'm just going to go the other way. I think 21-17 is where I'm at. I feel like it's going to be the Texans are just going to be so close to being every bit of the team we want them to be. And I in my own little storybook-ish way, I think they lead. And, you know, it's the Rams that are trying to come back late. And they score a late touchdown to make it 21-17. And then, you know, they close it out. So I'm hoping that, you know, it's stress-free first game of the season in the fourth quarter. The Texans like to make every Texan fan, you know, just make sure they're alive, you know, get that blood pressure up a little bit more than they normally would. So this year, maybe they spoil us, and you know, we're kicked back, you know, and enjoying, you know, kneel downs at the end of four quarters instead of late drives to score touchdowns to tie or win games.
What is it that you called them last year? The cardiac kids. They were they're really good at getting the heart rate going. And so I'm hopeful that with the changes to the offense that's not the case. I gave my score prediction on Locked On earlier this week, and I'm going to stick with that. So it's going to be 24-17. And with that, I'm going to go with the Texans jumping out. So here's general flow of the game. Both teams are shaking off the rust for the whole first half. It looks a lot like Texas, Ohio State, just kind of the Rams put up a touchdown and the Texans are still trying to figure out how football is played. But it's like two really good teams trying to figure out how football is played. So there's not like a lot of scoring to it. They're stifling each other at every turn. And then the Texans come out in the second half. In the third quarter, they run up 3 touchdowns to go up 21-7. In the fourth quarter, they kind of let the Rams slip back into it. It gets to be 21-17. The Texans will kick a field goal to make it 24-17 with 2-minute drill situation in the fourth. And then it'll come down to the Rams just not being able to put together a drive. The defense is just going to swallow them up. So no, I prefer to give a storybook ending where the offense has some sort of epic drive, but I think it's more in line with the Texans, style to have their first game end in the defense put the exclamation point on it and ended it. So it ended in 4th and 2. Stafford takes a quick drop, but Tim Settle just shoots up the middle and gets him, just takes him out. Sack, game over. CJ kneels it out just like Tom wants him to, and it's pretty stress-free, at least as stress-free as the Texans can make football for you. So, with that, Tom, do you have any final thoughts on this matchup before we kind of see what happens?
Man, I'm just super excited about football. I think the only thing the Texans can do wrong in my book is just absolutely not show up. I feel like even if for some reason the Rams win a close football game, I'm still going to feel really good about football this season with the Texans, really excited about what I think they can do. I know it's not going to be an easy season. There's going to be some challenging games in there. They're playing a first place schedule. Those things, they tend to be a little bit more, and you have to deal with, better teams. So I'm excited for a challenging but a really strong season from this team. I think they're going to be really good by the end of it, and we'll see what happens.
We will see. I agree with you. I mean, I'm excited for the start of 2025 season. Like I said, I'm excited because this is the first time ever that I get to watch the season opener in any capacity for an NFL team ever at any game. I'm going to be in a stadium week 1. Couldn't be happier. But I'm hoping that in my first trip to SoFi Stadium, the Texans come out victorious. Thank you for tuning into the Bullpen. I have been James Roy. You can find me at James Roy NFL wherever you get your social media. Tom is Third Coast Tom on Twitter and TC Tom1 on Instagram. And we are the Bullpen, America's #1 Texans podcast run by veterans. So that's right, in the whole United States and Texas, #1. It was run by all right. So thank you for supporting your troops. We appreciate it. All right. As always, thanks for tuning in. Stay classy, Houston, and vamos Texans. Thanks for tuning into The Bullpen, a Texans podcast. Please like, comment, subscribe, and follow along for more Texans talk from The Bullpen.